in the heart of a lush rainforest, where the trees stood tall like ancient guardians, and the air hummed with the songs of birds. A small village nestled quietly. This was home to 11-year-old Alia, a spirited girl with bright, curious eyes and a heart full of love for animals. She lived with her father, Sam, a gentleman with weathered hands and a deep voice that carried stories of the wild. Together, they worked as animal rescuers, helping creatures in need and teaching their community about the wonders of nature. One golden morning, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the dense canopy, Alia and Sam sat on the wooden porch of their modest house. Their dog, Rusty, dozed at their feet while the forest around them buzzed with life. Alia was sketching a toucan she had seen the day before, its vibrant beak taking shape under her pencil. Sam, sipping his steaming tea, was reading a letter that had just arrived from the capital city. "Alia," he began, breaking the serene silence. His tone was calm, but there was an unmistakable excitement in his eyes. "We've been given a very special mission." Alia set down her sketchbook and looked up, intrigued. "What kind of mission, Papa?" Sam handed her the letter. "A group of endangered animals, lemurs and some rare birds, needs to be transported back to their natural habitat in Madagascar. They've been rescued from illegal traders in the city, but they can't survive there. They belong in the wild, and we've been asked to help take them home." Alia's heart leapt with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. She adored animals and felt a deep connection to the creatures they cared for. But the idea of such a big responsibility, one that involved leaving their familiar forest and traveling far across the ocean, made her hesitate. "Papa, what if something goes wrong? What if we can't keep them safe?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. Sam reached out and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Alia, you have a gift, a way with animals that not many people have. They trust you, and I'll be with you every step of the way. Together we can do this." Alia nodded slowly, her father's reassurance calming her nerves. She glanced at the forest, her home, and imagined the animals waiting for them, scared and uncertain. A surge of determination swelled in her chest. "Okay," she said firmly. "Let's bring them home." The days that followed were a whirlwind of preparation. Alia and Sam worked tirelessly, gathering supplies and studying the animals' needs. Alia spent hours reading about lemurs and the unique forests of Madagascar, fascinated by the idea of seeing them with her own eyes. Rusty, sensing the excitement, followed them around, wagging his tail. On the eve of their departure, Alia stood at the edge of the village, gazing at the sunset, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. She thought of the animals, their tiny hearts beating with hope, waiting for their second chance at life. As the first stars twinkled in the sky, Alia whispered to herself, "We'll get you home, I promise." The entire village gathered at the small dirt road that led to the rainforest's edge. Alia and Sam stood beside a sturdy truck, its back filled with wooden crates and soft blankets to keep their precious passengers comfortable. Inside the crates, the rescued animals, bright-eyed lemurs and colorful birds, peered nervously through the slats, sensing the start of a new adventure. "Take care, Alia. Take care, Sam," the villagers called out, their voices filled with warmth and encouragement. Old Mr. Benny, who often told Alia stories about the forest spirits, handed her a small wooden charm carved like a lemur. "For luck," he said with a toothless grin. Alia smiled and tucked the charm into her pocket, feeling the weight of the village's hopes resting lightly on her shoulders. She climbed into the truck next to Sam, who gave the villagers a grateful wave before starting the engine. As the truck rumbled away, Alia glanced back at the familiar trees, now bathed in the soft morning light. Their journey to the port was long and bumpy. The road wound through dense jungles, over rickety bridges, and past bustling towns. Alia kept a watchful eye on the animals, whispering soothing words when the truck hit a pothole, or when the birds fluttered their wings nervously. "It's okay," she murmured to a tiny green parrot, its bright eyes full of worry. "You're safe now." After hours of travel, they reached the port, where a large cargo ship waited to take them across the vast ocean to Madagascar. The animals were carefully transferred to a secure section of the ship, their crates lined up and checked by the crew. The sea breeze carried the salty scent of adventure, and Alia felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as she looked out at the endless blue horizon. Once the ship set sail, Alia and Sam spent their days caring for the animals. They cleaned cages, prepared meals of fresh fruits and vegetables, and ensured the animals were as comfortable as possible. Alia quickly noticed one small crate tucked in the corner. Inside, a tiny lemur lay motionless, its fur a soft brown streaked with white. Its big, round eyes were half closed, and it looked frail and frightened. "Papa," Alia called softly, pointing to the crate. "This one looks sick." Sam came over, his expression serious as he examined the little lemur. "It's dehydrated and weak," he said, fetching a small bottle of water. "We'll need to keep a close eye on it." Alia carefully cradled the tiny creature in her arms, its small body trembling against her. She decided to name it Little Star because of the faint white spot on its forehead that reminded her of the night sky. Over the next few days, Alia devoted herself to nursing Little Star back to health. She fed it drops of water and bits of fruit, spoke to it in a soft, reassuring voice, and even sang lullabies she remembered from her mother. As the days passed, Little Star grew stronger. Its eyes began to shine with curiosity, and it started clinging to Alia's arm with its tiny hands. The bond between them deepened, and Alia felt a fierce protectiveness for the little lemur. But their journey wasn't without challenges. One night, a storm swept across the ocean, tossing the ship like a toy in the waves. The animals cried out in fear as the ship rocked violently. Alia clung to Little Star, her heart racing. Sam and the crew worked tirelessly to secure the crates and calm the animals. "Hold on, Alia," Sam shouted over the howling wind. "I'm not letting go," she shouted back, wrapping her arms tightly around Little Star. When the storm finally passed, the ship was battered but intact. The animals, though shaken, were safe. Alia and Sam checked every crate, ensuring their passengers were unharmed. As the sun rose the next morning, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Alia sat on the deck with Little Star nestled against her chest. "You're a tough one," she whispered, stroking its soft fur. Little Star chirped softly in response, its tiny hand gripping hers as if to say, "Thank you." As the ship sailed closer to Madagascar, Alia looked ahead with renewed determination. The journey was far from over, but she knew one thing for certain. She would do whatever it took to get these animals home. The ship swayed violently as towering waves crashed against its hull. Thunder roared overhead, and lightning split the sky, briefly illuminating the terrified faces of the crew and passengers. Alia clutched Little Star tightly to her chest, its tiny body trembling against her. Around her, the cries of the lemurs and birds echoed through the storm, their fear palpable in the chaotic night. "Alia, stay here and keep Little Star safe," Sam shouted, his voice barely audible over the howling wind. He was rushing to check the crates, ensuring the animals were secure. Alia nodded, but her eyes darted toward the makeshift shelter where the other animals were kept. The storm had ripped part of the ship's protective netting, and seawater was pouring in. Some of the crates had begun to slide, endangering the animals inside. "Papa!" Alia screamed as she saw a crate containing a group of brightly feathered birds teeter dangerously close to the edge. Her heart pounded as she realized the severity of the situation. Sam appeared at her side, his face grim. "We need to stabilize those crates or we'll lose them," he said urgently. Alia hesitated, holding Little Star even closer. The tiny lemur gazed up at her with trusting eyes, its small hands gripping her arm. She could feel its fragile heartbeat against her chest, and the thought of leaving it alone filled her with dread. "Alia," Sam said gently but firmly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I know you love Little Star, but we have to think of all the animals. They're counting on us. I'll help you. We can do this together." Alia's throat tightened as she looked at her father, then back at the crate swaying dangerously. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling as she gently placed Little Star into a small carrier secured to a nearby beam. "Stay safe, Little Star," she whispered, brushing her fingers against its soft fur. Then, with determination in her eyes, she turned to help Sam. The two of them worked tirelessly, braving the lashing rain and icy wind. Alia struggled to push the heavy crates back into place, her small frame fighting against the storm's fury. Sam used ropes to secure the larger ones, shouting instructions to the crew. Each time a crate was stabilized, Alia felt a small surge of relief, knowing another life had been protected. Finally, after what felt like hours, the storm began to subside. The waves grew calmer and the howling wind softened to a low moan. Exhausted and soaked to the bone, Alia and Sam collapsed onto the deck. Alia's first thought was of Little Star. She scrambled to her feet and ran to the carrier, her heart racing. When she opened it, the little lemur peeked out, unharmed. Relief washed over her as she held it close once more. "You did it, Alia," Sam said, his voice filled with pride as he approached her. "You made the right choice. You saved them all." Alia looked at the other animals, now resting safely in their secured crates. She felt a deep sense of accomplishment, but also a newfound understanding of what it meant to care for something bigger than herself. As the sun began to rise over the calm ocean, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Alia sat with Little Star on her lap. She stroked its fur gently and whispered, "We'll all make it home together." The storm had tested her courage and her ability to make difficult decisions, but it had also taught her the power of selflessness and teamwork. And as the ship continued its journey, Alia felt more determined than ever to see the mission through. The sea was calm now, the storm just a memory etched into the minds of everyone aboard. Sunlight sparkled on the waves like scattered diamonds, and a gentle breeze carried the salty scent of the ocean. Alia stood on the deck, her hair damp from the morning mist, gazing at the distant shoreline. There, the emerald forests of Madagascar stretched like a promise of peace and safety. The animals had slowly recovered from the chaos of the storm. The lemurs chattered softly, their tails curling in curiosity as they peered out of their crates. The birds preened their feathers, their brilliant colors catching the sunlight. Alia moved among them, offering reassuring words and bits of fruit. "Almost there," she murmured, handing a slice of banana to a wide-eyed lemur. Little Star, as always, clung to her shoulder, its tiny fingers gripping her shirt. As the ship approached the dock, a team of conservationists in green uniforms waved from the shore. They had prepared a transport to take the animals to the natural reserve deeper in the forest. Alia felt a bittersweet tug in her chest. This was the moment they had worked so hard for, but it also meant saying goodbye. The conservationists welcomed them warmly, helping unload the crates with careful hands. Sam exchanged notes with the team while Alia stayed close to Little Star, her heart heavy with the thought of parting. "Alia," Sam called gently, gesturing for her to come closer. "It's time." Alia knelt beside Little Star's crate, her fingers trembling as she placed the tiny lemur inside. Its big, round eyes stared back at her, and for a moment she thought she saw understanding in its gaze. "You're going home now," she whispered, her voice soft but steady. "You'll be free to climb trees and play in the forest, just like you're meant to." She hesitated, then leaned in and kissed the top of Little Star's head. "Be happy, my little star," she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. The crate was carefully loaded onto a truck, and Alia watched as it disappeared into the jungle-bound road. Sam placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You gave them a second chance," he said. "That's something they'll never forget." Later that afternoon, the conservationists invited Alia and Sam to visit the reserve. Alia's heart soared as she saw the animals being released into the lush green forest. The lemurs leaped from tree to tree, their movements agile and joyous, while the birds took flight, their vibrant wings painting the sky. Amid the greenery, Alia spotted Little Star climbing a tree. It paused briefly, looking back in her direction before disappearing into the canopy. She smiled, feeling a mix of sadness and pride. As the sun began to set, casting golden light over the forest. Alia sat with her father on a fallen log. The sounds of the jungle surrounded them, a symphony of life and renewal. "Papa," she said, her voice thoughtful, "I understand now. Protecting nature isn't just about saving animals. It's about giving them a place where they can truly belong." Sam nodded, his face filled with quiet pride. "You've learned something many people never do, Alia. And I'm proud of you." As the stars began to twinkle in the evening sky, Alia felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The journey had been challenging, but it had also shown her the beauty of connection between people, animals, and the wild world they shared. And in her heart, she knew this was just the beginning of her journey to protect the wonders of nature. The rainforest village welcomed Alia and Sam back with open arms. Children ran alongside their truck, calling out excitedly, while the adults gathered to hear stories of their journey. Alia felt a wave of warmth as she stepped down from the truck, the familiar sounds and scents of home wrapping around her like an old friend. But this time, she returned with a renewed sense of purpose. The experience of saving the animals and witnessing their release into the wild had left an indelible mark on her heart. As she stood on the porch of their house that evening, watching fireflies dance in the twilight, she turned to her father. "Papa," she said, her voice steady with determination, "I want to do more. We can't stop with just one mission. We need to help people here understand why it's important to protect the animals and the forest." Sam smiled, his eyes shining with pride. "I was hoping you'd say that. What's your plan?" Over the next few weeks, Alia and Sam worked tirelessly to create a community project they called Guardians of the Wild. It started with small steps, inviting villagers to workshops where Sam shared his knowledge about the animals, their habitats, and the dangers they faced. Alia, armed with her sketchbook, used her drawings to teach children about the beauty of the rainforest and its creatures. The project quickly gained momentum. Inspired by Alia's passion, the villagers began to take action. They formed patrol groups to prevent illegal logging and poaching, planted trees to restore damaged areas of the forest, and built nesting boxes for the birds. Word of their efforts spread beyond the village. Conservationists from the nearby reserve visited to offer support, bringing tools, seeds, and their expertise. News of Guardians of the Wild even reached social media, and soon, volunteers from other parts of the country and even the world arrived, eager to help. One day, as Alia was organizing a group of volunteers to clean a nearby river, she noticed a young girl standing shyly at the edge of the group. Her clothes were dusty from a long journey, and she held a small backpack. "Hi," Alia said with a warm smile. "I'm Alia. What's your name?" "Lena," the girl replied softly. "I heard about what you're doing here. I want to help. I love animals too." Alia's smile widened. "Then you're in the right place, Lena. Welcome to the team." As the months passed, Guardians of the Wild grew into a movement that united people from all walks of life. Alia became a leader and a symbol of hope, her story inspiring others to take up the cause. She often thought of little Star and the other animals they had saved, their freedom a reminder of why this work mattered. One evening, as Alia and Sam sat by the village's central fire pit, surrounded by villagers and volunteers sharing stories and laughter, Sam turned to her. "You've started something incredible, Alia," he said. "This is your new journey." Alia looked around at the smiling faces, the flickering firelight casting a warm glow. She thought of the forest, alive with the sounds of the creatures they had saved, and the promise of a brighter future for all living things. "Yes, Papa," she said, her voice filled with quiet joy. "And it's only the beginning.